Hi, I'm Mash Ponigala, and I'm a brand strategist at Spellbrand. It's a leading branding agency. Now, if you've been following my videos on YouTube, you know that you probably noticed that I hardly ever introduce myself in the videos, right? But I think from now on, I will introduce myself because I got a lot of emails coming in, comments, asking me what my name was. Because I just start off a video and, I just get into the topic and I don't really sort of, say out my name. Anyway, to get into the topic of this video today, I want to talk about what a sleeping brand is and how you can awaken your brand. Now, Awaken Your Brand is a tagline of our agency, and this topic, I could have made this video, ages ago, but I decided to do it today because we just got a registered trademark on that slogan or tagline. It's not just a tagline, it is more of a philosophy, right? It is a concept, it is a framework, so to speak, and it is made up of several different components. But first, let's talk about what a sleeping brand is, right? What do we mean when we say a brand is asleep? Now, it's a very subtle kind of mindset, but it is rampant. If you look around, if you look at your market segment, if you look at any market segment, you will see that brands are really sleeping. There are, of course, a few awakened brands, and those are the ones that are really killing it in your market, right? They are the ones that are the leaders. They have the kind of majority of the market share, and more importantly, mind share, right? So companies that sort of command the mind share are the awakened brands, and the ones that are just in the dark are the ones that are sleeping. But what is a brand that is sleeping? A brand that does not really align with its target audience, does not communicate with its target audience, does not have the brand recall or the brand awareness, and is not top of mind, is a sleeping brand, right? A brand that is just, it knows its product or its services thoroughly, right? Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's an incompetent brand, even though, of course, a portion of sleeping brands are incompetent brands, right? They don't know what their products are, or at least they don't communicate the benefits of what their products, but more importantly, they don't understand the target audience. And so their campaigns and their marketing, their message is all muddled up. It's confusing. It's just all over the place. So when we talk about awakened brands, these are the brands that align with their target audience. And to be able to align with your target audience, you need to understand your target audience, right? You need to understand in depth who your buyer persona is. And it doesn't necessarily have to be just one buyer persona. It could be, multiple buyer personas, but at least have one core buyer persona and then other, secondary and tertiary buyer personas. Because if you don't understand your target audience or your customer avatar or buyer persona, there's lots of words. Of course, each of them have subtle differences in what they mean, but essentially, in the scope of this video, we're just talking about, let's say, your customer avatar, right? If you don't understand your customer avatar, if you don't master it, if you don't know the exact details of your customer avatar, then you cannot really align with that avatar, right? Which means you don't have the strategy, the positioning strategy, and the messaging strategy to sort of communicate so that you build that kind of bond with your customer avatar, that relationship that makes you become top of mind. And once you become top of mind, you are, of course, commanding mind share. So at Spellbrand, and part of my personal agenda also, my personal kind of purpose, is to create brands that are awakened, right? So our kind of purpose, our vision, purpose and vision is to awaken brands, to help brands awaken. Okay, I know I'm going around in circles, but I wanted to really emphasize what it really means, because just a sleeping brand doesn't necessarily mean that the brand is not spending money on advertising or marketing, or is not aggressive, or is not really tearing into the market or penetrating the market. Yes, that could be part of a sleeping brand, but it's more fundamental than that. So if you really want to awaken your brand, you got to really start at the core, at the essence of your brand, right? But it's not just about your brand. It is more to do with your target audience, your customer avatar. So you need to actually start there. So parallelly, you are identifying what your purpose is, your brand's purpose, right? Your vision, mission, things like that. And at the same time, you're also understanding or identifying, analyzing your customer avatar, what their purpose is, their vision, mission, core values. So essentially, we're talking about archetypes, right? So we have to identify what the archetype of your customer avatar is, or even in a more generic sense or broader sense, the archetype of your target market. And then you need to craft your archetype, which is your brand archetype, to align with that archetype. So what are archetypes? Now, this is a preamble to a series of videos I'm going to do on archetypes. There are 12 different archetypes. And these are archetypes are essentially kind of not stereotypes, but these dictate or indicate the kind of mindset and, of course, thereby the worldview of people. And these are timeless. I mean, these were from the time of Plato and Socrates and the philosophers, the Stoicism, and of course then Carl Jung, a great modern philosopher and thinker, came up, actually distilled that idea and brought it into the modern kind of times, right? So archetypes are nothing but identifiable categories of human mindset and worldviews. Okay, so these are identifiable human categories of mindset and worldviews. By understanding a particular archetype of a set of people or even an individual, you can then align your brand with that archetype by having your own archetype, which complements your target audience's archetype, right? Okay, so every time I've said archetype in this video, you could have a counter going. And at the end of this video, we will see what the counter. And it's probably the Guinness Book of World Records for the most number of times the word archetype was used in a video, right? Okay, so at Spellbrand, and as I said, part of my kind of purpose is to really help brands understand this dynamic of brand archetypes, of the customer avatar, then complementary archetypes of the brand, and how these can be used in storytelling. So that means messaging strategies, right? All these together will position your brand in such a way that you align with your target market, your customer avatar, and you create that bond, that connection. That will then lead to gaining mind share, gaining market share. In fact, it's going from a red ocean into a blue ocean. So you stop competing. Your positioning actually creates this kind of blue ocean for you. Awaken Brands is not just about the strategy. So you don't simply have a strategy and then say that it's an awakened brand. The strategy has to be translated. Of course, it has to be translated into messaging, but also into the visual language of the brand. And this is where there's a lot of disconnect between, in terms of the awakened brands and sleeping brands. Brands if they have a strategy in place, if they have a positioning strategy in place, that is what it is. They just keep it as a document or a playbook, and that's about it. However, success comes when you take that positioning strategy and you translate that into a visual expression, right? So you got the visual identity, the visual language, and also the brand tone, the brand voice, and how a brand actually communicates that online or offline. Well, now it's 2020, and talking about offline is really a bit silly. Even for, I mean, for any business, for any market segment, it's online. Yes, you could say, well, there are still segments and markets and businesses that are purely offline. I'll say, show me those examples and let's talk about it, right? I can show you how even the kind of, the raw market segments or businesses that are purely brick and mortar and offline do have not really the potential to go online, but also the need to go online. So anyway, so online, so visual language, visual identity, visual expression, brand tone, brand message, brand personality, that is derived, of course, from strategy, from the archetypes. And then online presence, the campaigns, the stories that are told, the kind of content strategies that come up, all these together, this is an awakened brand. So if you want to awaken your brand, you have to go through all these steps, right? In an upcoming series of videos, I will create step-by-step process of what all these different archetypes are and how you can then align your brand with these archetypes, how then these archetypes and the alignment is then translated into a visual kind of language, then how you're going to be building your brand tone and message, which includes, of course, the visual language and the messaging strategy and the brand stories and the whole kind of framework, and how you then tell your stories online to become awakened. In the process, how you're going to be building up your kind of your footprint, so to speak, online footprint. So that is really what we mean by awaken your brand. Yeah, I keep talking a lot about strategy. I keep talking a lot about storytelling, and yeah, these are all, nice to listen to or read, but a lot of brands struggle with the fundamentals of how do we actually do this, right? What does it mean to create a strategy? What does it mean to create a positioning strategy, right? How do you go about understanding the target audience or the customer avatar? How do you create your customer avatar? How do you create brand stories? How do you create a messaging framework? How do you translate that into a visual language? How do you then take that and create the brand personality, the tone, and the message? How do you then take all these and implement them online? So those are the things that I'll be talking about in upcoming videos. And in the meanwhile, of course, if you have any questions, just leave them below. Like I said, this video is just a simple introduction to the concept of awakening a brand and what sleeping brands are and what awakened brands are. I would like to do examples, but maybe that's a separate video. I just wanted to do an introduction here. And yeah, till my next video, take care.